My name is Renee. I was born here in Washington to my Korean mother and my West Indian father. My parents divorced shortly after I was born, and I spent my childhood going back and forth between them or my grandmother in New York. There was always an undertone of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse with each move. When I was in my preteen and teenage years, it became apparent to social services that there was a physical and emotional abuse going on, at which time I was put into foster care. After getting moved from one foster home to another, a family finally gave me a little bit of stability and by getting licensed to keep me. Unfortunately, by the time this happened, I was already a broken teen with zero self-esteem and had sabotaged the relationship by acting out and pushing all the boundaries. During this time, I had become very promiscuous, chasing after the love and affection and belonging I had deeply craved, but I never received. Soon after being kicked out of the foster home, I met a trafficker right on the corner of 3rd and Pine in front of the McDonald's. He portrayed a glamorous world of money, power, and control over men or buyers of sex. He told me, well, since you're just giving it away for free, you might as well get paid for it. And I believed him. I wanted that love so desperately. I was only 16 years old. He said, just give me 30 days to show you what we can do, and if you don't like it, you can go home. And within a blink of an eye, I was on Pacific Highway turning my first trick, my first sex act. And then I was put out on Aurora. 2 days after I turned 17, he took me to San Diego. My first night in San Diego was when everything became real to me. It was nothing compared to Seattle. There were dozens of girls my age and pimps everywhere I turned. I remember thinking, this is my first night. I can't go home without any money. So I broke one of the rules, jumped into a car of a man who acted like he was going to either help or pay me. Instead, he put a knife to my neck and violently raped me. This is the violent reality of life on the streets. The daily trauma, terror, and coercion young people are exposed to. I remember sobbing. I just want to go home. I don't want to do this anymore. I was terrified and trapped. And my trafficker told me I couldn't go yet. He said, if you had listened to me, this wouldn't have happened to you. You need to be a woman of integrity and character and stay true to your word. What will you do if you go back home? What man will want you now? Are you gonna go back to foster care? I felt hopeless. 30 days turned into 3 years of being trafficked across California, Arizona, Utah, Hawaii, and Nevada. See, this is how traffickers get their victims to stay with them. This is the mind control that they have over you, selling you a dream of love, belonging, acceptance, and glamour. Instead of that dream, for the 3.5 years I was with him, I was beaten, robbed, raped, and lost more and more of myself with each sex act as I was forced and coerced to perform. I felt ashamed, guilty, and confused. I would ask myself, why did my life turn out this way? Who will ever love me now? How will I ever get out? After I got pregnant with my son, my trafficker became more and more abusive, and I began to realize that he was a drug addict and alcoholic. I finally had the courage to leave him. However, I went straight to another trafficker who I thought would protect me. During this time, my son was kidnapped by a family member who had also been my abuser. Because of the abuse I had endured from this person and the immediate control and manipulation of my current trafficker, I was too scared to fight to get him back. Little did I know that my life was about to become much more terrifying. My trafficker brought home an underage girl, a 14-year-old. He brought her home to work with me, even though I attempted to warn him several times. Soon I was facing charges of kidnapping, pimping, and pandering, and taking a minor across state lines for the purpose of prostitution, among dozens of others. The FBI took everything I had and put me in jail on the day I was going to get an abortion with my second child. I stayed in jail for 8 months. And this is where I finally began to hear this still, quiet voice of God. I was so hurt from the physical, emotional, sexual, and even spiritual abuse that I had endured since childhood. I was mad at God. How could he have let this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? I got out of jail, I had my beautiful daughter, and began to turn my life around. I got a job, my own place, and I began to learn to live life on my own. Unfortunately, I continued the pattern of going from one relationship to another, and I still found myself searching for something to fill the void in my soul. I fell into a deep depression. I felt lonely, helpless, and I had suicidal thoughts. I thank God for my kids, because if I didn't have them, I might have killed myself. So I finally decided to seek professional help and go back to the only place that I knew would save me. When I came to Hope Place, it's a women and children's shelter, I realized I had never faced nor recognized the deep pain and brokenness that I was feeling. I needed deep healing, and while attending classes there, I learned about the patterns of abuse and the toll that it had taken on my life. I learned about safe people and how to be a safe person. Through trauma counseling, I was able to identify the roots of my pain, and everything began to make sense. I moved into transitional housing with my kids, now 4, and decided to apply for a job in nonprofit to help people just like me and my kids. I also wanted to work with an agency who helped youth get out of the life. After researching local anti-trafficking agencies, I was invited to speak at an awareness event. For the first time ever, I shared my story out loud to a room full of strangers. The next defining moment of my life was when Amanda Hightower, the executive director at REST, made a beeline to talk to me at this event. REST is an organization supported by Stolen Youth, where victims and survivors can go for holistic healing and support. To know that they are worthy and deserving of love. It was exactly what I had prayed for while I was in the life. I knew that I had found a safe space with REST. I became a mentor, and in 2013 was invited to sit on the board of directors. In my current job, I am the lead community health worker, assisting low-income and homeless individuals and families who need support accessing their healthcare needs. Because of my role as a community health worker, I am constantly exposed to secondary trauma, and that kept me in a constant state of chaos. It's all I knew. I still held on to guilt, shame, self-loathing, and I believed deep down that I didn't deserve to be happy or loved. My suicidal thoughts began to scare me. I was wearing so many masks that I felt like a fraud. I also acknowledged that in order for me to truly heal, I needed to face those years I spent in the life. It was too scary to work on those 7 traumatic years I was in the life. But I took the deep dive and I completed almost 200 sessions of intensive trauma therapy last year. I now believe that I am worthy. I believe that I am enough. And now I know I have a light so bright within me that all the darkness that was out to destroy me will not succeed. I'm a survivor. It took me years to finally confront the terror and trauma I experienced as a child and as a trafficked youth. To stop blaming myself for things that were completely out of my control. Had there been an organization like Stolen Youth and Rest, my whole life trajectory would have been so different. The unfairness of how long it takes to recover from something I didn't sign up for breaks my heart. Even still, I am so grateful for Stolen Youth and organizations like Rest, who give me hope that more youth will have a place to go to be seen, heard, honored, and loved. That one connection saves lives. Thank you for being here today.